Yeah, so this is our session, right? So this is the panel focusing on the topic of Web3 is all about Gen Z, self-expression and storytelling. So hello, everyone. And thank you, Meira and Aditya, for joining and everyone else who is tuning in now. So just a brief introduction. My name is Kathryn, Shannon theme. Everyone calls me Shannon. So like what Chin mentioned earlier on, I am the program leader of the BA Honors Fashion Media Industry Program at LASALLE College of the Arts, University of the Arts, Singapore. So as an educator, I'm very much driven by the passion for exploring the intersection of fashion and technology. And I'm always excited when it comes to shaping the discourse around fashion and its future with all these digital initiatives and technological applications surrounding Web3 and of course Gen Z, while pushing the sustainability agenda. So my students are mostly Gen Z with a good mix from Singapore and different parts of Asia. So the panel today will mainly focus from the Asian point of view, in terms of the discussion and like India, Indonesia, China, Korea, Thailand, Philippines, some of these countries are where my students are from. So I'm really excited to be able to moderate this panel for a topic that's very close to my heart. So we're looking at Web3, fashion, and Gen Z. And just to give the audience an overview, what I'm going to do is, as the moderator, I will invite Meira and Aditya, who are our panelists for this discussion, to introduce themselves and what they do. Thereafter, we'll go into a discussion on the Gen Z culture, self-expression, storytelling, and digital fashion in Web3. That will take about 30 minutes or so. And then we'll have a Q&A for the remaining 50 minutes of this session. So before I hand it over to our panelists, let me briefly introduce our first panelist, Meira. And Meira is the co-founder and CEO of HybOrg. And Meira is from Ulaanbaatar, which is in Mongolia. And she's also a virtual fashion designer and creator, as well as a sustainability and mental health content creator. So she will share a little bit about HybOrg later on, and it's her turn to talk a little bit more about herself. But just a brief overview, HybOrg is actually a hybrid fashion platform that merges physical and virtual fashion, focusing on virtual wearables for consumers to wear, embody, and create as their favorite characters from anime, manga, movies, and video games, etc. So our second panelist is Aditya Mani, who is the founder of YOLOgram Style from New Delhi in India. So a little bit about YOLOgram. YOLOgram focuses on styling digital humans for e-commerce try-ons to enable consumers to create animated content and stories for the social and metaverse while providing a platform for immersive storytelling. So these two panelists will provide really, really insightful, and thought-provoking insights and opinions regarding this discussion, surrounding Web3, Gen Z culture, self-expression, and storytelling. So without further ado, let me welcome Meira and Aditya. So lovely to have you both with us today in this panel. So I'll now hand over to Meira and Aditya to share a little bit more about themselves and what they do, just so that they can provide a little bit background and context for the discussion later. So first we have Meira. Meira, please.
Hi. Okay, thank you for having me. It's really great to connect with other people in Asia who are doing the same thing and developing this new industry to the next level. My name is Davaajargal. I'm based in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. You guys can call me Meira. I'm the founder and creative director of HybOrg. HybOrg is basically a virtual fashion platform. We developed many types of virtual products and how it can be implemented into physical brands, and we tested it many different ways. Basically, how it works and what it is just really simple. We all know that many types of anime and manga and a lot of contents, we watch them on a daily basis, and we also like to play a lot of video games, right? And those kind of activities become part of us and then how we express ourselves in digital worlds. And what we are doing at HybOrg is just enabling people to express themselves through their favorite characters, game heroes and stuff. So we developed many different designs previously, and we tried to make just simple digital fashion items. But then we realized that the Gen Zs and the younger generation wants really crazy and extravagant styles instead of just being basic designs. So a lot of people would like to harness this power of digital fashion and make it more interesting, more engaging compared to the physical fashion. So that way it can allow really self-expression other than the physical fashion we usually wear in daily lives, right? So how it works is really simple. We just took the intellectual property of anime and manga and other contents that we like to watch, and then create the virtual wearables for cosplayers or any sort of fan who would like to dress themselves and feel like they are in character. And then we sell those virtual wearables and offer many of them free to just experience this new realm for many people. And then people can wear them and then create many contents. Also, we see that a lot of people would already buying a lot of virtual items in game and dressing their avatars and engaging with different activities and connecting with a lot of people. And it's really important way to express themselves in digital world. So we saw that, okay, video games have a lot of huge fans and gamers who would actively engaging in that. So we decided to create more virtual wearables tailored to gaming, and then players or any people can wear those heroes in real life and actually become a hero in real life, right? So aside from developing virtual wearables, we also tried how we can combine physical fashion and virtual fashion together, because right now a lot of brands are confused how to navigate into this space and how to implement this new technology and approach and opportunity to their business and to their audience. So we discovered that hybrid approach can be the way, because physical fashion brands still can produce their physical items, but combining them with virtual fashion, they can allow customers to more express themselves and then create more storytelling around their brand instead of just only making a physical product, which is more cost efficient, also time efficient. Also, it doesn't have to create a lot of waste to people to express themselves. So we explore through many different options, and then now we are doing this platform. So yeah, I would like to share more about what we achieved before and what we are trying to do in the future more. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Meira. And next we have Aditya. Aditya, over to you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm just going to share my screen. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, just give me a second. Something is switched on my... Yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm the founder of YOLOgram Style, and we basically, our mission is to unlock the stylist and all. And basically what we do is we address the three different worlds: one world of fashion, one world of e-commerce, one world of gaming, and we're trying to blend them all together. And we know the problem today with e-commerce is you're going through an endless scroll of the perfect supermodel, and many times you're not able to relate how this would look on me. So, we're trying to solve that, because every consumer can create an avatar of themselves, and the eventual outcome is to, come up with storytelling with branded fashion. So, our inspiration really is about Virgil Abloh when he said that it's really not about the fashion, it's really about the storytelling, and fashion has to play a very small role to it. So every time there's a story involved, there's a lot of culture behind it, and there is a lot of choices that go into making this fashion, right? So fashion should be about who you are and who you want to be. And we're enabling that with the direct to avatar platform by enabling you to style your avatar, not just with clothing that you buy in the physical world, but fantasy clothing as well. And we believe that sharing content, which is branded content, onto social feeds, lets you tell your story. And that's all that's important. And all the branded content, which is the fashion, is present in virtual product placement. So what I mean by virtual product placement is that, I'll show you a couple of visuals, because, when we see the evolution of how we've seen the generations evolve, Gen Z today is kind of 3D. They're like the 3D explorers out there. So, their parents kind of scolded them and told them not to play video games. But then when COVID happened, they were given free access to play video games. So they shifted from, taking your friends to video games to making friends in video games. So it's a complete difference. And, what that meant is that entire friend circle is present inside the video game as well. So they're, they kind of like to style themselves. They like to make social connections inside these video games, inside these 3D experiences. And the next generation after that, the Gen Alpha, they are ones who are going to be having these creator tools available to them out of the box. So we want to be, present in between Gen Z and Gen Alpha to give creator tools where the focus is not on the science of making the product, but easily be able to make it. So I'm going to share a quick video, and I think it's going to have audio. So I'm going to try and mute the audio because it's very loud. But the idea is that, we talk about a character, he puts on a VR headset, or it could be AR. He walks into a 3D, showroom of a brand. He sees what the garment looks like on his favorite hero. So it could be, in this case, a rap star. He's seeing the garment on the rap star. He's seeing a poster of the rap star behind. He'd like to see what it looks like on himself. And then he can see the, the fashion on himself. So these experiences we are creating both in VR and on regular mobile, because that's how we thought it should happen. And then from there on, he can go into a virtual experience. So this could be a multiplayer game, or it could be a multiplayer concert. And that's really what, the vision of what we do. And what we also realize is that today's storytelling is very important. So a consumer should be able to tell stories with branded fashion where they can tell their story. So what we're doing is, any consumer can create an avatar of themselves and dress it up with branded fashion and fantasy apparel. And we're giving you the tools thereof to, how you can use this for live commerce, how you can do it for a live Zoom call, how you can do it for a virtual call with two people with each other. And that's basically this kind of holographic calling that we're building. And we believe that it's going to be the next version of FaceTime. So I'm going to try to switch to a quick video where, two friends are in a live call with each other. I hope this works. So, this is augmented reality. Two friends are in different parts of the globe, and they've kind of beamed their experiences to each other, and they can see each other and they're copying each other's moves. So that's just a small snippet of what we do. I'm going to stop the, screen share because I can go on with lots of videos. But, we're trying to blend the world of gaming, fashion, e-commerce, and social media all into one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the introduction and an overview of what you guys do, which is really, really amazing, the platforms that you guys are actually providing. So moving on to our discussion. So I just have an opening question, all right, to set the pace of our discussion. And as an opening question, responding to the topic of the panel, which is Web3, it's all about Gen Z, self-expression and storytelling, which is what basically the both platforms that the two of you are actually currently working on. It's really all about that. Could you share what you have observed so far on Gen Z's behaviors, and if there is a desire in them for that self-expression and storytelling, not through any kind of platform, but focusing on Web3, such as gaming and digital fashion, in comparison to other generations before them? How different are they? Maybe you can start with Meira first.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time in virtual world every day, like on social media and online games and such. And I'm from Mongolia, and we don't really have those generational categories like they do in the US, such as Gen Z and millennials. But I see it as more young folks who have been into tech and social stuff since they were teenagers. And now they're Generation Alpha, right? Born into a world of screens. So both Gen Z and Generation Alpha spend a ton of time in games and virtual worlds like the Pero, where they dress up their characters and hang out with others, right? So they even care more about how their avatars look than in themselves in real life. So it's really important them to look cool in those spaces to connect with other people. I think it's mainly because we are social creatures, and those platforms help us to connect with others, especially right now for younger people. It's the mainly in the only way and only the fun way to connect with other people instead of going out, right? So in this super connected virtual age, we bond through online characters and social personas. So that's why it's really important that why those like Web3 and digital fashion is come in is that we already have those behaviors, how we connect with each other, and those digital fashion is allowing people to express themselves in the virtual space and also in real life. So I think that's why it's coming really strong. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, so it's really about the community that you are providing as well, right? With the whole like-minded people, the sense of belonging for this group of Gen Zs, that they find an outlet to better express themselves, yeah. So that's great. What about Aditya?
Yeah, so very similar observations we've made. In India, of course, we're having these subcultures which are emerging, which are pretty strong. So if you follow Balaji and his theory of network state, sometimes the network state that gets created within your network is stronger than your physical state. So sometimes your connections on LinkedIn, Facebook are stronger than your immediate neighbors around you. You probably don't know your physical neighbors, but sometimes you'll end up being more connected to people who are on the other side of the planet. But what we saw with millennials is we had two tribes. One tribe was the gamers, who were typically an evolution of skateboarders or gamers, and we had another set who were very outgoing, who were the social media influencers. What we're seeing in Gen Z is a mix of two, a blending of two. So I spoke about earlier about making friends in a game and taking your friends to a game. So earlier, what would happen is you would have your friends who you'd connect with in clubs and in school, and then you'd form a network with them on Facebook, and then you'd make some new friends in games, and then you'd add them to Facebook. But now what's happening is with the new generation is because of multiplayer, you take your existing friends. So you send them an invite saying, hey, let's meet in Fortnite, let's meet in Roblox. So there's a shift happening from, making friends in games to taking your existing friends to games. So that's really a blending of worlds that happens. And what the passport that the parents have given them by letting them spend a lot of screen time during COVID is that a lot of their social connections, because they were really pulled away from social connectivity for the last 3 years, a lot of their first connects happened to gaming interfaces. So we realized that a lot of people knew each other from their Fortnite handles, their behavior on how they behaved in Fortnite, how they exchanged messages. So this is really leading to a new way in which making friends happens. And this naturally leads to how your swagger online is. So, your avatars, your kind of loot that you have, whatever whatever kind of gear that you put onto your avatar, all of that starts to make difference. And because it's all about expression, they don't care that much about the visual appeal. So, you have a lot of kids today connected on Roblox, even though it's a blocky interface, it's not high res, it's not, extremely 4K or, that kind of visual appeal. But because it allows you self-expression and it allows you that connectivity, that is something that is so meaningful to them. And in terms of, general self-awareness, I really applaud this generation, because they really know what they want and they really know what they stand for. And that often comes out in the choices they make in their avatars. So, whether it's about being environmentally friendly or the brands or the collabs, whether it's the music, the artists, the games that they want to see on their digital gear or they want to see on their garments, that really reflects a lot about their choices and as a lot about their values as well.
Great. Yeah. So, because the second question that I wanted to ask, actually, it's based on your last point, actually, about the choices that they make and what they stand for. I was just wondering, like, for Gen Z, because they have this community and they form this bond and this network, which you both talked about earlier on. I was just wondering whether if they have a liberal view of world issues that are different from the previous generations, and how do they actually view the world today, and how do they actually leverage on Web3 to share their stories, and also fight for the things that they believe in, perhaps in diversity, inclusivity, sustainability, and in general. So how do they actually express themselves online? Aditya, you mentioned about the choices and the preference that they make that will mirror in terms of the products that they will actually buy or purchase or don on themselves virtually online. Could you elaborate a little bit more on this?
Would you like me to start?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I do feel that they're a very evolved generation. They're very connected. They've also seen a lot of things that a lot of us haven't seen. So they've seen COVID, they've seen the Black Lives Matter movement, they've seen 2 wars happen very quickly. So definitely they are a little more on the liberal side of thinking, and they feel that and that's what typically happens with subcultures and counterculture. So every time there's a subculture, the counterculture which will emerge as the next culture will be the exact opposite. So my guess is that Gen Alpha will go the other way. But if you see today, Gen Z is very different from the hipster revolution, which kind of said, we don't care about anything. We just want to be cool. We don't want to care about everything. And today, Gen Z is, we care about everything, whether it's environment, whether it's about equality, whether it's about prejudice, whether it's about war. They have a view on everything, and they feel that self-expression and expression is something that is very core to their values, and they must feel the need to express, whether it's about an opinion on X or Twitter, or whether it's about voicing their views on Instagram. And that is where we feel that avatars will really help, because it gives you the power of anonymity, and it also gives you the power of creating your own virtual influencer. So, I could be someone who stands for sustainability in fashion. I can create a virtual character, and I can speak through that virtual character. So we really believe that this generation will take on avatars not just as a form of cosplay, but as a form of donning a character which will stand for those values that people can truly follow on social media. And of course, it unlocks so many other potential, like live streaming of you could be live streaming commerce, live commerce, all of that can happen through avatars. So I believe that this is a very, very evolved and informed generation. And if you really ask me, they are a little bit on the liberal side of things. But that's natural because of the way subcultures and countercultures work.
Great. Very insightful, definitely. How about Meira? What do you think?
Yeah, I have really similar point of view with Aditya, because I think it's really important for Gen Zs to stick with their beliefs. When it comes to buying things and choosing their favorite brands, they're quite selective. They have strong views about where they want to put their money and trust, focusing on values like sustainability, inclusivity, and cruelty-free products. What's so cool about Gen Z is that they really have collective voice to challenge things like harmful advertisements or harmful standards that pushing to them. So in addition to meeting these standards, their clothing designs needs to resonate with them, right? Not only just stating what they believe, it also has to express themselves, and also has to be relevant to what they're watching and what are the trends that are emerging right now. So it should reflect what they're into and how they want to show themselves based on their interest, style, and personal identity. In terms of fashion, I recognize that many brands are trying to get into this sustainability and inclusivity conversation, and even Gen Z is notable for their sustainable choices. It is still, if you see the data, a lot of consumers and actual purchase is made by Gen Z for the fast fashion brands. So Gen Z buys a lot of fast fashion. So it shows that it's not like they're controversial. It shows that clothing needs to be not only sustainable and ethical, it also has to be trendy. It has to express help them to represent and express themselves. So that's the part where I think that maybe digital fashion could be the solution, because it can be sustainable, and it also can be really trendy, because we can produce a lot of virtual items in a short amount of time and really reflect those trends and interests with various choices. So virtual fashion can replace fast fashion for me. So because the thought comes from the fact that we only wear one clothes 7 times on average before discarding. So we are buying new clothes just to make just take a photo or share on their Instagram, right? So it can be like just digital items. We don't need to waste any biological sources and like no materials needed to like express ourselves. So that's the part that I think Gen Z and their choices in brands and clothes really like resonates with current technology and opportunities that are coming. Yeah.
Right. We will talk a little bit about the whole the aspects of how the impact on retail space later on, because with all this virtual fashion, you know, that we are so strongly advocating for, and that's something that Gen Z is also looking as an avenue for self-expression. So we'll discuss a little bit more about that later on. So the next question that I have is more in terms of coming from your perspectives of founders of your respective platforms like HybOrg and YOLOgram. So when it comes to virtual wearables, could you share some insights and your take on what kind of a consumer are we really talking about here in regards to Gen Z as the consumer? Do they, because you talk about them as, you know, leading a platform for self-expression, for that whole forming a community of like-minded people, you know, who share the same values as them and what they stand for and everything they believe that they should have a voice, you know, and they need a platform to sort of showcase their opinions, their expression, etc. But there are many ways to do it. So I'm just wondering whether, you know, do they intentionally turn to Web3 to express themselves, you know, because they see that Web3 has got the opportunities much more than any other platforms, like maybe a protest in person, you know, versus like Web3, which is digital and virtual and this whole virtual environment, and for them to share their stories? Or is it mainly influenced by the affordance of price or their belief in sustainability? Because when we talk about digital fashion, yes, it's one thing about pushing the agenda of sustainability, right? Because we're talking about not producing physical garments, like what you mentioned about fast fashion earlier on for Meira. So do you think that Web3 is really a medium or a platform, you know, or digital fashion is really something that the Gen Z really resonate with because of the opportunity that it provides them for that self-expression and storytelling versus, you know, something that is more physical or in person? Based on your experience or based on what, you know, as founders of these two platforms, what do you think? Maybe we can start from Meira.
Yeah. In terms of our customers, we interacted with many different people and come to a conclusion that it's really the young people who can be really the users, because they already have those behaviors to spend money and interact in digital worlds. So, you know, at HybOrg, we got some really interesting customers. Many of them are big fans of video games and anime. In real life, they tend to be a little bit shy, aren't big on posting selfies or creating public profiles on social media. But in their own world, like when they are gaming, cosplaying, or talking about this interest, they certainly become really confident. From what I've learned through interacting with those customers and knowing who they are, I've noticed a few things. So most of our Web3 and digital fashion customers are actually coming from Gen Alphas with few late Gen Z mixed in. In Mongolia, they don't use like mainstream social medias like we do, like social Instagram and Facebook. If they have Instagram and Facebook account, it's usually they don't have any pictures of them and it's private accounts. So they just use these platforms to chat with their friends and check out events or activities. They're not like really into building their profiles or becoming influencers like millennials do. So instead, they prefer doing activities with friends, like playing games in Roblox and just connect with each other. So I think younger folks are more interested in Web3 because it offers sense of security for their identity. Like Aditya said, when people have their digital avatars, they can be like whoever they want. it gives them the freedom to like explore many different things and express their voices without fear of like letting them know who they are. So also it lets them connect with others without sharing their personal photos and gives them more room for self-expression. I even recognize this on myself because I stopped really posting photos on Instagram and Facebook because I feel like how I connect with other people really started to shift into like these virtual platforms and games, and not just like posting my photos and making comments about each other. So I think Web3 also allows this security in like your information, and you can like be whoever you want, but like not like sharing your private images or information is on public. So I think, yeah, that's really helping these younger generations to shift into that. And also I recognize that many Gen Alphas are grown with parents who are really like to document all the steps of their lives. Parents took their documents their kids' lives and share them online. And I feel like, as Aditya said, so there's like, if there's some culture is rising, there's also the counter one is rising. So for me, I feel like younger generations are getting repelled to not post their photos and share their private information, because since they were kids, their parents used to do that, or we have all this available social network that we can share anything about ourselves. So now they are shifting into like pretending their private informations and then just interacting as anonymously with other people. Yeah, that might be like influencing those people to get into Web3 and just communicate with others as avatars. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And how about Aditya?
Yeah, totally resonate with everything that Meira said. So you earlier in the earlier world, like millennials and older, you had just two classifications. You were either introvert or extrovert, and that's it. So it was like a pass-fail kind of classification. And now with Gen Z, you find your game. What's your game? Is it Zapito? Is it Roblox? Is it, you find your game, you find what you're good at, and you excel and you do really well. And that's something that allows all of them to excel in the space that they think they're good at. And that really unlocks a new level of confidence within them. And like exactly what she said, that a lot of them are camera shy, and a lot of their heroes that they look up to, they work behind avatars, or they work behind a Twitch stream, which is not focusing so much on a camera feed, but is more focusing on how good they are in terms of their skill. So that's something that this generation cares about. And again, when we talk about the whole counterculture and culture and subculture and the power of this, we know that today all big brands are scared of being canceled, because you do something which is socially could be frowned upon. Gen Z can quickly pick up on that, and it can be reshared very quickly, and then very soon you can have uninstalling happening and cancellation happening. So big brands are realizing the power of what this is. And what this means for Gen Z and Web3 really is that Web3 is very, very aware that, when you buy something in a Web2 space, so when you're buying avatars or you're buying any kind of gear in a Web2 space, the game can technically just retire it, or they can just when you go from one version of a game to another version of the game, it's not necessary that your loot and your wearables transfer from one to another. So they're very aware of this, and they're making those conscious investments with the hope that it may work, it may not work, but it's more a concept of how they feel about things, that we should own things in our digital wallet, which is where they're making a lot of forward thinking investments, like what they're doing with Artifact and digital fashion gear like that. And having said something about that, they are also the culture, they are also the generation that are going to be the leaders of 3D. So if the previous generation were the leaders of the camera feed and the camera, these are the leaders of 3D. So they will know how to place a virtual camera, how to do a virtual photo shoot. These are things which will come very naturally to them. And these are not going to be the high-end broadcasting tools that CNN uses. These are going to be simple tools, which are going to be phone apps, where they're just going to use their finger to, do the virtual photo shoots, create virtual avatars of themselves and express themselves in the game that they want to lead in.
Right. So yeah. So having said that, so in let's look at this whole notion of greater individuality and creativity that you mentioned about, and discussing the different kinds of narrative and stories that the Gen Zs are, so-called using the Web3 platform as to empower them, for self-expression and storytelling. I do agree that the whole Web3 is providing this room, more room for them for self-expression, and just I can see that within the community, the student body that we have as well, in the college and university that I teach, and how they some of them really come alive, and really confident, when it comes to online versus in-person kind of a communication. So my next question would be more in terms of shedding light on this whole global pandemic, that's also part of this whole equation of when we talk about Gen Z. So we all know that the global pandemic has accelerated digital transformation, and as digital natives, when you talk about the mobile app, the swiping of the hands, the gestures of hands, to interact, earlier on, Aditya, you mentioned about that. So Gen Z spends a lot of time on their phones and digital devices. So in that sense, they are connected digitally most of the time. They are also a generation who are entering adulthood during this global pandemic. So how has COVID-19, or has it in any way influenced Gen Z's consumer behavior for digital fashion preferences, in your opinion? Yeah. Maybe, maybe Aditya, you want to start first? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I think it's been, COVID has been an accelerator. So, if there was a natural progression in which how you could, so what has become very clear is that whether it was a matter of choice or whether it was a matter of being forced, a lot of your connections landed up being digital connections, and human nature still feels the need to connect, still feels the need to be connected as well. So a lot of these connections landed up being initially on Zoom, and then from Zoom, it moved to platforms. So platforms could be, Discord. And then from there on, it landed up being these multiplayer environments, which landed up being game-like interfaces. So they're not really games. So they are game-like interfaces where you're just walking around. So it could be Spatial, Fortnite, all these experiences where there could be a tied-in experience, or there could be a virtual concert where you're meeting, not everyone is able to speak, but they're able to experience the same thing in real time. So I think a lot of that was accelerated through COVID. And what also that led to is because your interface into that person is through a screen, your interface into that person is through a 3D medium, your what you wore on yourself was equal part of your communication. So, if you'd gone into a Justin Bieber concert, you'd have a t-shirt which either spoke for the values you were, or Justin Bieber, or a fan engagement, similar to what Meira was saying, that people do the filters. You were also having those choices come in on your digital fashion as well. So a lot of that accelerated because the choices of physical connectivity were reduced, and digital connectivity was amplified. So I feel that that has been good for the industry, and in terms of also accelerating the the development of things. And like I mentioned earlier, they are the natural 3D creators, producers of all these movies that are going to come up. So we're going to have these small snippets, which are 5-second, 10-second immersive storytelling, like I like to call it, which is all going to be stitched together into this mega movie that you'd be able to see and visualize in 3D, because you have all these recorded snippets available for Gen Z over the years, just like how you have the recorded experience of the parents of the previous generation, which are through the camera feed. You're going to have these recorded, and they could be across multiple platforms, but AI could probably stitch it together and show you, this is how your journey in 3D has been in the last 5 years.
Right. Amazing. Yeah. How about Meira? What do you think?
I think I can relate to this question from my own experience, as I was between the ages of 19 and 20 years old during the pandemic. I was working remotely in various jobs, which meant a lot of Zoom meetings. At that time, there wasn't much need for me to buy new clothes because there were limited opportunities to show them off, right? So aside from maybe perhaps wearing them on Zoom or taking a few photos for my Instagram, this situation got me thinking that I really need some clothes to express myself on a screen, but at the same time, I don't need to buy new clothes just for this experience, right? So this situation got me thinking about the clothes that only suitable for digital spaces. Even in pandemic, I still wanted to look cool in photos and different looks because that was the primary way to connect with people. As Aditya said, it's the only opportunity that other people are seeing me and connecting with me, right? So I actually began experimenting with digital makeup first. So I would take a photo of myself and then add makeup and accessories to it before posting it on Instagram. This experience made me realize that digital fashion can be much more creative since it doesn't have to be physical and I can do whatever I want. So while the pandemic has restricted the physical clothing purchases and uses, it also opened a lot of new portal for digital fashion and possibilities for that.
Right, great. Yeah, I mean, with the whole lockdown in many countries, there was a disruption to the supply chain, and there were these store closure waves, that's happening around the world. So yeah, and definitely digital fashion provided that sort of opportunities to come in to fill that gap. Definitely, I do resonate with that a lot, Meira. So the next question, focusing on Web3, when it comes to inclusivity and diversity, which perhaps earlier on you talk about they care about things, and this group, this generation, it's people who are really empathetic towards a lot of things that are going on, whether it's war issues and so on. So how does that actually sort of influence or impact their shopping habits or online purchases, gaming, or and their preference for digital fashion? So does inclusivity and diversity restrict their behavior in all these aspects, like shopping behaviors, online purchases, what they purchase, and the games that they play, so maybe we can hear from Aditya first.
Yeah. So in terms of inclusivity, of course, we do have a lot of sensitivity in the way any kind of expression is there in terms of at least the choice of words, but even in the choice of what they choose. So, I've seen that a lot of the physical as well as the digital are less, they're kind of gender fluid. So you have loose t-shirts, you have really loose pants, and this could be worn by either. It's not necessarily more masculine or more feminine. And even in the choices that we're seeing an equal mix of, so say you want to look at some kind of digital gear which looks like some kind of explorer or runner, you'd have it equally purchased by both boys and girls. So we find that equal mix, and that's the way in which I see inclusivity becoming more open now. And also we see that there's a mix of words. So for example, in India, we have huge fan following of Japanese subculture or Korean subculture, or any of these manga, anime, all of this. So we're seeing this starting to come onto digital fashion. We're seeing this starting to come onto digital storytelling, onto physical fashion as well. Even if someone's ordering something from far away, they'd rather have something that they go to a party wearing, Bored Ape hoodie, or they're wearing, because that is something that means something to them in terms of, where they stand, in terms of, they're really backing this brand. And I've seen that shift from, so the typical brands that were the premium and aspirational brands today are equally accessible to all. But I feel that people really want their brand and their and the choice of whatever graphic goes on to whatever they're wearing also to reflect their their vision and values as well. So I've seen that little shift happen. And sometimes they're even wearing their attitude. So sometimes it's a custom message that they're putting on their clothing, and or the choices that they're making. So, when you talk to them about luxury high fashion, they're often talking to you about Stella McCartney because she has a very good, view on cruelty prevention, sustainability, using a vegan, cruelty-free leather alternatives. So, I see these, and also what the pandemic has really done is made you more thoughtful and made you more deliberate on what purchases you want to make. So if you were making 5 sub high value purchases, you're probably making 2 high value purchases now, but they really stand for the brand that you believe in. So I believe that shift is happening both digitally and physically, and we're seeing it evolve as we speak.
Yep. And how about Meira?
Yeah, I think Gen Z are particularly really like selective in terms of their brand, and they really like to support brand if they take a stand in social issues. It doesn't have to be just personal matters. It could be like international matters, or maybe the biggest statements that people get different sides on. And then if that brand is taking that side, maybe like Fenty brand is backing the Black Lives Matter movement, it just boosts their all their like marketing and then their products to a lot of people, because it stands for the value and people would like to be part of that message too. So they buy that product to express themselves. Yeah, I stand on this side too. So it's really important. And also I recognize that since the Meira is announcing that they are creating avatars and doing a lot of things for the metaverse, I see that there is a really good effort to include a lot of different people, whether that will be their disability or skin types, or anything that makes us different from each other. So I think in this virtual space, our differences can make a difference. We need to include a lot of people so that everyone feel included, especially the Gen Z and younger generation would really love to see themselves in a screen or the public spaces or their influencers being someone like them. For example, it's really like really fundamental human need to feel that they belong somewhere. So it will be like so sad to not see your representation in a public figures. It just feels like some hole in there that can be filled. So it lacks this inclusivity matter lacks in the real world for a long time, and people are demanding it, and it can be like established from the beginning in the virtual spaces, because we know that from experience it's really important for a lot of different people. So yeah, also I think it's really like multifaceted issue in terms of inclusivity, right? Some people think that it's still like hard to differentiate which one is right, which one is wrong, especially when it comes to sexuality and pronouns and a lot of other stuff. People take a lot of different stands. So I think it's really important for us, the platform makers or any sort of like, maybe I'm making design and I need to have to think about all those aspects to make something that feel relevant with so many different types of people. So I think we have to educate ourselves in terms of that, like constantly. It's like always constantly iterating, right? It's not like always, oh yeah, it's like just these 5 colors. No, it's like more of that. It's just always evolving. So we have to always educating ourselves to keep updated. And yeah,
I agree. Definitely. That was a very powerful statement to make, having to always, improve and always be aware of what's evolving, to ensure that everyone is included and everyone is, it has a sense of belonging, like what you said. There are many different types of people, and Web3 does really have the opportunity to provide that space, that safe space for self-expression and a sense of belonging. So yeah, that's great, Meira. So having said that, how as founders of 2 amazing digital platforms, maybe we can discuss a little bit more on the role of Web3 in enabling unique forms of expression among Gen Z. So if that's the case, then how how can brands and marketers, we talk about certain brands earlier on, in the physical world, in that sense. So how can they effectively engage Gen Z consumers through storytelling in this digital age? Maybe you can start from Meira.
Yeah, certainly there are like various ways for brands to step into this digital space and connect with their customers. The choice of the method depends on who are their customers and what are what's the brand goal is here. So for instance, if a brand wants to engage a younger audience, setting up a virtual shop in Roblox, maybe launching a brand items would greatly boost the experience, right? So a lot of young people would see that. I recently saw that a lot of young people who are playing Roblox don't know the brand from social media or in real life store. They just know it on the game. Like there was like this game, the star in the game, so they know it. Oh yeah, it's this brand, but they don't really actually know the brand or like purchase the physical product. So it really helps to boost your exposure into this younger generation. And also if like brands wants to maybe like take care of their existing audiences, or maybe like offer new experience, it can be like integration between their own storytelling and brand, and then using virtual items to extend that, or maybe like show it in a different way. We are working with one brand right now. They are mainly make physical clothes for younger generations, and now they're trying to like how to reach more younger generations. So the founder of the brand has a kid, and that kid plays Roblox like crazy. So how to reach that younger generation is the question for her. So we are trying to make a virtual clothes, the similar, exact same items for her brand produces, and then offer it on the Roblox or other gaming platforms so that people can engage it without even buying the product. So that kind of initiatives can come just because of the fact that you have to understand your audiences and what they're doing and what they want from your brand. Maybe you have a long-standing brand that has like similar items we're dropping every single month, and now you need to like refreshen up some things and maybe like show the message strongly again, and then that way, like I think virtual fashion really can come. And also we think that since we are getting into this virtual space, I met many brand owners, the physical brand owners, and their concern was that if I ever like sell virtual items, what about my physical items? I want to sell them too. So I don't want to like just sell only virtual items because it's not going to replace the physical items. Yes, it's obvious. So we decided to come up with the combination of the two. So we, as a test, we developed this upcycled vest that comes with the NFC chip. So by scanning the NFC chip, people can get access to 100 different virtual wearables. So people still got the physical, and the brand still got to sell the physical part, but it has more value since it's integrated with virtual items. So by owning that unique item, it's upcycled, so it can be only created just one time, because you can't like make a similar fabric scraps and then make a one vest, like similar vest. You can make a lot of similar vests by upcycling. So it's just a unique item. And then by accessing different virtual wearables, the physical items value increases too, because it's not just only the physical. The brand can constantly add virtual items for that physical item, even after the customer purchased it. So it just boosts the utility and then customers' excitement about the product for longer. As I mentioned before, people buy just one clothes and then wear it on average 7 times and then ditch it. This is so unsustainable. If brand has just one hoodie, okay, for example, I have published the one hoodie to my customers, and then I will constantly add virtual wearables according to the recent trends or interesting events happening. And then the customer will still keep being happy and then excited about the product. So it will really boost the brand's revenue too, because they are not just selling one thing and then forgetting about it. They're just constantly renovating, and then they make a profit out of that without producing more physical clothes. It's also sustainable and more interesting for the customers. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Aditya, how about you?
Yes, talking about storytelling, there's been an evolution. So, if you look at how storytelling's been happening, so, it was very few. It was those who had the printing press. And then from there on, it went to people you were free to write, and then it became blogging. Then it became about the camera feed. So what we're doing is we're shifting the power at every stage. So we shifted the power from actors to influencers. So anyone who was in front of a camera could express themselves. Now that shift is happening to the digital feed or the 3D feed. So you're going to have a virtual character and you can express yourself through that. That also means it's a shift of the power of the director and the producer to these kids who can, virtually do the camera angle and play with AI. So there's that shift happening, and that's something that big brands have to be aware of. And we do provide tools in which we're actually providing a mix and match of everything. So you can mix 2D, 2D textures with 3D fashion. You can bring in different countercultures, bring in different musical countercultures, and then do your storytelling. So rather than doing a Instagram reel where you're standing in front of a camera, you can do this by quickly mixing and matching, not putting your camera on at all, and then, expressing yourself through your digital avatar. From an inclusivity angle, we've had two very good stories. So we had one story where a dancer from New York had contacted us, and she was basically teaching people on wheelchairs the power of dance. And, all that these kids wanted was to see their avatar do a dance because they could not physically do it. And that was so empowering because, they felt that in the virtual world, even though they were on wheelchairs, they could do what the others could do. And then we're also working with a New York brand, which is empowering women who are survivors of breast cancer surgery. And they can visualize how they, so our client makes a bra for breast cancer survivors. So they can not just visualize themselves with this bra. It leads to less body shaming because, they're able to visualize themselves and they're able to express themselves and share with each other. So we're seeing good inclusivity stories come out of this. And we also believe that the tools are really shifting. The tools of 3D content creation are shifting, and they are not going to be coming out from the next 21-year-olds. They're going to be coming out from the next 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-olds. And we're going to see this evolution of creators and influencers come up at a much younger age group very soon.
Right. Great. So yeah, I think what you guys mentioned earlier on, the both of you, somehow or other threaded over to what I wanted to ask with regards to the impact on the traditional retail landscape in some sense, having this whole, digital sort of aspect, that you mentioned earlier on, Meira. So I think that shift in terms of the Gen Z culture and the digital fashion preferences and this whole, need for self-expression and storytelling could be one way of how brands can engage, with Gen Z, and then looking at how they can look at the future of retail, and that whole entire immersive experience that they can actually provide for Gen Z and for the future generation within that space, connecting them, physically as well as virtually. So yeah, we are nearing to the end of our session. We have a question from the audience, and this will be our last question that we could use this as a closing. So the question from the audience is, what advice would you offer to aspiring content creators, fashion designers, or even entrepreneurs who aim to engage with Gen Z? So yeah, I leave it to any one of you who is willing to just speak first. Yeah.
Meira, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the best and the quickest way to connect with your Gen Z audience will be seeing what they're watching right now, and then what are they saying and what's their stance on it, and really be curious about how are they seeing the world and what's their values and how are they seeing their future. So I think that can help to what kind of products that we're producing, and then how can we advertise it to them. So it will really help to understand their perspective on that. Aside from that, I think it will be like really amazing to create more real connections instead of just trying to push something, product or services to their face. If you like see a TikTok trends and how people are buying product, is that the brand has to create a personal connection to the audience almost through storytelling and the more like human moments, so that person will really feel close to that brand. Even if it's just a big company with a lot of employees, still customer feel that it's their friend, or like they really know their story. And that way really like would like to engage to those brands instead of like other brands. Maybe they have a better product or service. Gen Z would like to make a purchase from the one who understands them and interacts with them as a human. Also in terms of like fashion designers and content creators, I think it will be amazing to educate ourselves and then be curious about how it's working and then try to share it with other people so that we can continue the conversation even a bigger scale, and then try to come up with how we can navigate this into this space and maybe create different opportunities for each other. For example, at HybOrg, we first believed that, it's just fashion brands and experienced creators would publish those designs. But we shifted our perspective and then giving all this authority to the customers. Now we are just allowing our community members to create designs on their own and then submit them to us, and then we will create it and publish it as a design for other people to try on. So it will really help us not only just include a lot of people, it also helps us to understand what they want and what will be the cool product for them too. So that kind of inclusion and giving the authority and chance to participate is really important too. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And how about Aditya?
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. So today, whether it's Gen Z or a generation older or younger than that, they are talking about personal connection. So, if someone responds to a query, you ask something on a live feed, someone responds back, there's a higher possibility that that engagement, just a reply back, will cause a sale or cause that human connection to happen. And what personalization does is, so if I give you an interface that you can type on and you can, print your name on the back of a jersey, that gives you an increased sense of loyalty towards that platform, or that gives you an increased sense of loyalty towards buying that product, because that product can help speak your language. So I do believe that it goes on with the same way I said that democratization is happening. So even the fashion designer is getting democratized, the stylist is getting democratized, because it's going to be the co-creation of content that consumers create, similar to what Meira was saying that she does with her committee members, where they submit design. So it's going to be that co-creation, which is going to lead to higher connection and higher engagement.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Meira and Aditya. We have come to the end of our panel. So as a closing summary today, we have dived deep into the fascinating intersection of Web3, Gen Z, self-expression and storytelling. So thank you so much, to the both of you for having provided valuable insights into this dynamic landscape, shedding light on Gen Z's behavior and their desires for self-expression and storytelling through Web3 platforms like gaming and virtual wearables, and digital fashion as a whole. The discussion has showcased, this profound impact, of Web3 on Gen Z and their need for self-expression and storytelling, and how that shapes the future of the fashion and digital industries as well. So the different areas that we have discussed and explored includes like the overview of how Gen Z views the world, their liberal views on certain things, and how that actually influence their fashion choices and their product preferences, and how they need that so-called a room for expression, and Web3 provided them that sort of avenue. And also we discussed how Web3 provided the platform to empower Gen Z, and how that also brought about, a shift, in how we look at this whole digital environment, that is being brought about by pandemic and the acceleration of digital transformation within the fashion industry. And also we talk about how ways, brands can engage Gen Z through storytelling. So then how we can actually adapt to this whole changing landscape because of how the Gen Z and perhaps even the future generation, how they actually thrives within this whole digital world, that we can also look at how we can reshape, the future of retail as well to bridge the whole physical and the digital world of fashion together. So we hope that, the insights and the ideas that are shared here today will inspire new strategies, innovations, and approaches for brands, businesses, and creators as they navigate their ever-evolving landscape, this ever-evolving landscape. And also thank you to the both of you, of course, and everyone who has tuned in. Thank you so much for being such a great audience. Thanks for asking the question and for listening in your time. So take care, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.